Hello.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining us for Jesse and Melva Live. You feeling alive today?
I sure am.
I am too. We're so excited that you joined us today. And we have something to share with you that we're really excited about. We're doing a series called 3 Fundamentals for Success in Love, Marriage, and Life. So last time when we were together, we shared fundamental number 1, and that is being a source of safety. Now, you notice we started off with being, so we're into what we call Beatitudes, a variety of ways of showing up in life where you express your best self. So being a source of safety is one way. By the end of this year, we'll have 365, 366 or something like that. So the second fundamental that we're going to focus on today is the fundamental of understanding, which is so crucial. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to give you information about our belief system and theory about why that is so important in love, marriage, and life. And we'll give an example by sharing a piece of our story. What I have discovered over the years, I mean, we've been together for a long time, is that somehow some people thought that we just got to where we are. This stage 3, we say stage 1 is romantic love when everything is a fantasy. And then in stage 2, that's where all the growth opportunities are that a lot of people miss. And so some people believe that we got to stage 3 in terms of mature love overnight. It absolutely did not happen overnight.
I wish it had worked like that, but it didn't.
It would have been easier. So our stage 2, in a stage 2 that everybody goes through, has these opportunities to implement the fundamentals that we are sharing in this series. So we already shared one. And the second one is understanding. And we found that to be so true. And so the story that we want to share, actually, we will continue the story that we started last time about coming together as a family, all 4 of us as a family. So that's the 2 of us and Paul and Brian, because they have a lot to do with how we have arrived at this stage as well.
Yeah.
They helped us to get straight. So, okay, so one thing that we discovered in our story that we shared last time, a story, was that when there was tension, upset, misunderstanding, that all of us had a way to become defensive. So knowing, even though we knew that being defensive in reaction to someone offending, whether it's real or imagined, leads to a very negative outcome.
Right.
Because anytime either one of us was reactive, finger pointing, criticizing, judgmental, which one did we do the most? We didn't really criticize. What do we usually do?
Well, we were judgmental a lot.
Judgmental, that's what we did. And we made a lot of assumptions. And we made assumptions that we didn't check out, which meant that created a little discomfort for not just the 2 of us, but the 4 of us as well. So what we discovered is that, Paul and Brian were, I don't know if they would consider it a blessing or a curse to have parents who were so much into personal growth and spiritual growth. And we were learning all kind of stuff, and we were bringing it home to them. So we started off with, like most, started off not knowing what we did not know that we did not know. And we did not know that in the moment, I mean, with all of this training that we've had and all the work that we did all the years before we got married, we did not know that one of the reasons that, well, two of the reasons that we would clash sometimes was, number one, because of the assumptions or misconceptions that we had. And sometimes we verbalized them and sometimes we didn't. And the other thing, which was more important, and I don't think that really came up much before the training that we had before that last training. And that's the part of clash of realities. Two different realities. Well, under one roof, four different realities. And here's the thing. When people have different realities, the problem is beneath the surface. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So people think that they're arguing or their communication breaks down because of one reason. And that's only a surface reason. And they always point to what the other person said or did wrong, right? So beneath the surface, though, there's something else going on. It has to do with how our brain is wired. And the brain is wired. I mean, there's three parts of the brain that we pay most attention to. And those three parts of the brain ask three questions. Is this other person safe? Well, in the moment, if we're making an assumption that the other person is wrong, the answer is no. Am I feeling connected to this person in that moment? The answer is no. The third question is, what can I learn from that? Well, that's the stage that we finally got to that most people don't get to. So anyway, so in terms of what's going on beneath the surface is that when people make assumptions and say, and they declare, and they insist that their assumptions are true, then the other person can't help. I mean, that's offensive. So the other person will become defensive. And so in that space, there's no understanding, right? So we tried a lot of things that we liked to. We did a few things to figure out what was going on because none of us liked it, because we still had that bond, we still had that love, we still wanted, that happily ever after, we still had that. And we had a whole lot of that, but when we had those moments, we had to get that figured out. So there were 5 things that we did. And I'm not saying that we sat down and consciously figured out these steps. When we think about it afterwards, in essence, these are the 5 things that we did. So the first thing that we did was we started off with a positive intention. Mm-hmm. And Jesse, you were the one who kept stating that positive intention over and over and over again. Do you remember what you said? Because I do.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to let you remember it in a moment, but I'll just add that it was clear to me a couple of things. One was all 4 of us really loved each other. There was no question about that. That we also enjoyed being together and sharing fun times, times where we had problems we needed to solve, and all of that sort of thing. So my intent was in the idea of being clear about our purpose was to bring us back to the thing that had bounded us in the beginning. And if we would do that, then we would find our way through the maze.
Yeah. You're real clear about that. And you said that over and over and over. I'm so glad you did. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we did was, and we didn't really do this formally, but we kind of did it in terms of the way that we talked about it. We informally, because it was informal, formulated a vision to support what you were just saying.
Yeah.
Because we really did and continue to love each other and had really good feelings about each other and still do. So we decided not to just get along, but to continue the depth and the breadth of enjoying each other and supporting each other.
Yes.
Because we could see the best in each other. And so we decided that we were going to support that. And one of the ways that we did that, those weekly, you introduced that tool, the weekly support,
Oh,
the family
the
meetings.
weekly family meetings. Yeah, we decided to meet once a week at a regular time. It was usually on a Sunday afternoon, um, where each of us had the opportunity to share with each other the things that had gone right in the previous week, things we felt good about and that we celebrated, and we did celebrate. Uh, Also, uh, things that we wanted to improve so that our relationship and our bonding with each other was even that stronger, and and so on. And we also talked about fun stuff that we could do together, and we planned family trips and things of that nature. So it was really a wonderful time. And one of the things I remember is that I don't remember if it was Paul or Brian, but they used to spend part of their weekends with their friends out in Ann Arbor.
That was Brian.
Oh, okay. And uh, they would leave their uh, meetings with their friends and say they had to go home for a family meeting.
Paul
And
did it too, because after they both moved out, we still had family meetings on Sundays.
right, that's
So that
true.
was the second one. So the third one was, and we're so happy that Paul and Brian were game. We used a tool to explore how all four of us were different. There were ways that were the same, but a lot of ways that were different. We used this tool called the Performance Profile. And it was a gift to all of us because we were able to understand how each person functioned differently. And so when we got to a spot where there was a disagreement, or if there was well, for me, if I was impatient in terms of rhythm of someone or the process, uh, I was aware of, but this person doesn't function like that. I mean, I'm the one who snap decisions and I'm ready to go. The other three are not, but their process of how they got from point A to point B worked much better than mine because they would cross the T's and dot the I's. So that's the other thing. So we came up with a tool to understand each other more fully. And then the fourth thing that we did was, oh, you already talked about that in terms of the family support meeting that we scheduled time to hear. And it was really an understand and support each other. We had that structure, and structure creates safety because everybody knows what to predict.
Mm-hmm.
They could predict every week that everybody would be heard and understood and supported. And then the fifth thing that we did was we took the commitment of being understanding each other to other areas of our lives. It became a part of who we were and our beingness in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So those 5 steps are what we used to support fundamental number 2, to be more understanding. So one of the benefits has been that we could have the different realities no longer clashed.
Right.
They were honored, and people became more interesting in terms of the way that they saw things and the way that they function. It was more like, oh, really? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. Well, tell me more about that. I didn't realize that. See, we had figured out that what was going on during those moments was growth trying to happen. And we figured out how blending those 4 personalities, how each one of us grew in understanding. And the third part of what we discovered, we are going to share next time for fundamental number 3. So instead of tension prevailing, and it didn't prevail before, but if we hadn't handled it, it would have. We had shifted to more energy going into conversations of expressing ourselves in a way that inspired each other, uplifted each other. And I have to tell you, all three of those guys under that roof, they all enjoyed humor and laughter. They all enjoyed that. And since I was so serious all the time, it kind of, it was a little infectious. I lightened up a little bit too. So that was part of my growth.
Let me just share that this whole area of understanding each other is probably one of the fundamental reasons why a lot of couples have problems in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have an idea that they believe is correct, and they will argue and argue and argue their point of view and will not listen to their partner who has a different point of view. And the way I have experienced it is the more I can hear what you have to say, it broadens my world and my perspective. So I can see more of what's really going on in the world and can acknowledge you for how you're contributing to all of our understanding about what's real, what's really real.
Yeah, it's no longer a threat.
No.
It's not two realities clashing. It's two realities blending. And nobody has to give up who they are.
No.
Nobody has to give up who they are.
No.
This is where I stand, and this is how I feel about it. This is how I think about it. And that's it, and it gets to be honored. It doesn't have to be agreed. Okay. So these are the 5 steps that we used. And what we'd like to do next is to give you an opportunity to have a sense of what it could be like for you. Just want you to have a taste of what it could be like for you. So Jesse is going to take you through a guided imagery that's focused on just that. Understanding in terms of how we talk about it is called validation. And validation means your reality makes sense. Your experience that is different from mine makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to agree with it because it's not my experience, but I can honor it. Okay, so Jesse's going to take you through guided imagery so you can have a little taste.
Okay. I'd like to share with you a guided meditation, an idea from fundamental number 2, understanding what it's like for each of you to better understand each other, and it's called validation. No matter how bonded we become in our relationship with our partner, we remain distinct individuals with our own ways and the ways that we do things. The process of understanding our partner's point of view acknowledges that personal experience at the same time expands the territory we mutually share. In this bullet, I draw strength to understand my partner's point of view without strain or resentment, stretching into broader consciousness. I celebrate my partner's uniqueness today. I transcend myself to see that my partner's point of view has a logic of his own seeing that engages my world and frees me from the prison of having only one perspective, so that when my partner is feeling or opinion is different than mine, I say to them, I can see how you would think like that or feel that way, and it makes sense. I'm noticing that I don't have to change my own point of view in order to acknowledge how good it feels to allow my partner to have their view that is different from mine. Today, I take stock of the ways my partner and I interact with each other and notice where there is a difference in the way in which I want to spend my life. I hold this thought in prayer. If I change my life today, I change my future. Just take that in, breathe into that, and take another deep breath, knowing that understanding is key. It's a key fundamental to success in my relationship, to understand them as well as myself. Understanding myself, understanding my partner, and with that understanding, move it forward for me to be the best person I can be and have to support my partner to be the best person they can be. They can be in that spirit I am.
Okay. What was that like? Um, we do want you to know that that guided imagery was inspired directly from the Couples Companion. It's a book of meditations written by the founders of Imago Relationship Therapy, our favorite way to do work with couples. Doctors Harville Hendricks and his wife Helen LaKelly Hunt. They've written a whole bunch of books. And this particular book has a lot of wonderful meditations that support the Imago um, theory and therapy, which is based on growth trying to happen. That conflict is growth trying to happen. Okay, so with that in mind, just we're curious if there are any experiences that anyone wants to share about what that was like. And and if there are, you can put them into the chat box. And while we're waiting for that, or in the meantime, we received a question that is so appropriate to what we have been talking about today. So here's the question. The question is that this person says that my spouse is very irritating. She tells me that what I am feeling and thinking when I express it to her, when I'm upset with her, is not accurate. He says, I want this to stop. The question is really interesting because I grew up with an experience like that. There was someone in my family who used to tell me the very same thing, and it would push my buttons all over the place. So I was thinking, and Jesse, you probably have a response too. I was thinking that if you and your wife had a session with a couple of sessions with me and Jesse, or Jesse, you would be introduced to one of the major tools that we use. And part of that tool is reflected in what we were talking about this time, understanding. It's called the couples dialogue. And in that process, both of you would have an opportunity to understand each other's reality, because each person's reality has facts, and they're very important facts that are connected to their feelings that are different. And the second step is called validation, and that's where the person who's listening makes sense out of the other person's reality. So the mirroring back or the repeating back in step one, that part is easier. Validation, we have found over the years, is more difficult because when you're thinking, your brain is wired to see things one way. So this is a growth opportunity to stretch and to make sense out of somebody else's experience. And then the third step is what we're going to be following next week. So in terms of for now, I would recommend that you invite your spouse to just hear hear you out, and not to respond until you're finished with your complete message. And when you share your message, I also recommend that you use I statements that describe your experience, and also peel back the layers until you get to what it is that you're really wanting, and invite that straight.
Well, I think it's important, and one of the things I try to do with people that I have seen is to get them to acknowledge the fact that it's not a coincidence that they chose the partner that they chose. That person that they chose reminds them of maybe some of their childhood experiences. And so, out of all the people on the planet that they could have chosen, they chose a person like the person in their childhood who caused them a lot of discomfort and pain. So, first of all, is to own responsibility and take responsibility for what you have created. And the purpose of you creating that is not just to be angry, but really it is to grow through whatever that is that was unfinished for you as a child that you now want to heal. So, um, if you will take responsibility and go from there, you're likely to find that it's going to be far easier for you and far better for you in many ways to be able to work through that and to um, learn from that experience.
It's another way of saying that it's the law of attraction in action for
Right.
growth, for growth. Okay, so we have completed fundamental number 2. So let's review what we covered today.
All right.
So what we covered was the second fundamental for success in love, marriage, and life, which is understanding. And we also answered a question. And still, even if you had a question and we didn't receive it, we're still taking questions and we will answer them. Jesse took you through a reflective guided imagery. And then the last thing, we didn't do this yet. The last thing we want to do is to invite you to a complimentary consultation. Go to jesseandmelva.com. And what we're doing for the next few weeks, we're interviewing 5 couples a week because we want to support them to identify where growth is trying to happen in their relationship. So thank you again for joining us. We'll be back next time with the third fundamental for success in love, marriage, and life. Take care.
Thank you.